The greatest mayor in history said this: "What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others." That's the heart of public service. It takes all of us working together. And as I look out amongst you here, I see a lot of you in this community that come every day to work hard to make this community, this state, and this nation better. I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to welcome the President of the United States to Wilmington, North Carolina. Thank you.
Please welcome EPA Administrator Michael Regan.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, this is a great day. Listen, before I get started, Aggie Pride. Did I hear Aggie Pride out there? Before I get started with today's message, I'd like to acknowledge the horrific shooting that happened in Charlotte on Monday. You know, I know all of our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the fallen officers, the injured, and the entire Charlotte community. May we honor their memory and continue to fight for a world that's safer and healthier for all. You know, with that, I will say, on a more lighter note, it is great to be back home in North Carolina. Now, just a few weeks ago, I was up the road in Fayetteville announcing a historic national drinking water standard for PFAS. Yes. And we were able to do that because of you all, because of the advocates and the public servants that helped us get that across the finish line. But more importantly, I'd like to thank President Biden for inviting me to be here today and thank him for his leadership. You know, President Biden is keeping his promises, and he's fighting every single day for a safer, cleaner, and healthier America. And to my friend Governor Cooper, I am so grateful for his partnership and leadership. I want to thank him for his unwavering commitment to the people of North Carolina, but also for setting an example for the nation. And you all just heard from my friend Mayor Sappho, leading the great city of Wilmington. And I can say firsthand, staring down the water quality challenges that Wilmington has faced for a number of years. You know, I join you all today as the Administrator of the United States Environmental Protection Agency. But my highest title is Dad. And like every single parent, my number one priority is the health and safety of my child.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You know, I've been on the road a lot these past few years, and I've traveled from the big cities to small rural towns all across the country. And I've spoken to too many mothers and fathers who know the pain of having a child sickened by lead-contaminated water. Millions of families, hundreds of thousands of schools, countless daycares still rely on water that is pumped through dangerous lead pipes. Let me be clear, folks. There is absolutely no safe level of lead in our drinking water, period. Yeah. No parent should have to carry the weight of that worry, and no person should fear that their tap water will poison them. Ensuring that everyone has access to clean, safe, affordable drinking water is a basic human right and a moral imperative. You all know, and I don't have to tell you, we owe it to our children, we owe it to their future. President Biden came into office with a plan. His plan will be get the lead out. and he's directing the full force of the federal family to address the threat of lead in our drinking water. And EPA is committed to using every single tool available to eliminate this injustice, from exercising our congressionally mandated authority to regulate this toxin, to leveraging our enforcement capabilities, to providing technical assistance for underserved communities. We'll do whatever it takes to ensure that folks who have been shut out for far too long finally have the resources that they need to do everything from identifying projects, applying for the funding, to managing the actual construction. And implementing an unprecedented $15 billion, that's billion with a B, to remove lead pipes through President Biden's historic bipartisan infrastructure law. Yes. You know, together, all of us working together will achieve President Biden's vision of removing all lead pipes in this country. The president is right when he says it's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. We can and we will create a future that is healthier, more resilient, and more prosperous for everyone. A future where every child, regardless of the color of their skin or the community that they live in, can live free from toxic lead threats. I enjoyed being here as administrator, as secretary in North Carolina when I was head of DEQ, and I've enjoyed being back as administrator. Thank you all.
Please welcome Governor Roy Cooper.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Wilmington. So many friends, I'm not going to start calling names. Let me just take one moment, as Michael did. Administrator and I were just down in Charlotte. We're grateful for the prayers of all North Carolinians, of people from all over the country and all over the world, for those 4 fallen officers who were brutally attacked. And being in Charlotte and seeing the president talk with those families was very moving. And he spoke, I think, on behalf of the entire country, how grateful we are for those families, for those officers, and all of the law enforcement officers who risk their lives every day to protect us. So I want to thank them and thank the president for coming down and spending time with those families. And that's why he's a little bit late. So thank you for that. But I am excited, always excited to come to the beach. And excited to be here with North Carolina's own EPA Administrator, Michael Regan. And welcome yet again to North Carolina, President Joe Biden. This is the president's 3rd visit to North Carolina in just the last 4 months. So it's clear that our state is very important to him. And with him being from Delaware, we want to show him our Wilmington. And it's also exciting that President Biden is announcing $3 billion across the country and $76 million right here in North Carolina to replace these lead pipes to help ensure clean drinking water for the people of North Carolina and the United States of America. And we wouldn't have this money without the bipartisan infrastructure law. And we wouldn't have the bipartisan infrastructure law without President Joe Biden. Today's announcement is about an important mandate. In this country, in 2024, when you turn on the tap, you should get clean water.
That's right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're cooking a meal, giving your kids a bath, or just cooling off with a drink of water on a hot day. That water needs to be clean. Families today have too much going on to be worried about whether they can trust their tap water. Now, Wilmington and southeastern North Carolina knows about that. They know about the fight for clean water. And going back to the early days of my governorship, when my then Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality, Michael Regan, and I, and along with a lot of locals I see in this room, worked to hold Gen X polluters accountable. We led the way, we led the country on cleaning up PFAS. And we worked hard with the leadership here in southeastern North Carolina, and we made progress. But we needed help from the federal government. We needed a federal standard so we could use it to make sure that polluters pay. So we called Washington again and again. And for years, under the previous administration, those calls went unanswered. But that was before Joe Biden. And just last month, I joined Administrator Regan, he just told you about it, to announce that the Biden administration was delivering on a big promise to establish the first ever national limit on PFAS in drinking water. Our calls were finally answered. And as demand continued to grow to update our aging water systems and our roads, President Biden ignored the critics, the politicians, and the media who said it couldn't be done. And despite the twists and the turns and the roadblocks in the way, President Biden knew that things like clean drinking water and modern transportation and high-speed internet weren't a Democratic or a Republican priority. They were an American priority. So he went to work getting Republicans and Democrats on board to pass a once-in-a-generation investment in our country, and they did it. And here in North Carolina, we are already putting those funds to good use, investing in our communities all over the state. And we look forward to making additional investments to replace those lead pipes. North Carolina is used to being first in the nation on a lot of things. And we're going to stay out front working to protect clean drinking water. But we're grateful for an administration that has our back. Americans expect and deserve clean drinking water, and they expect and deserve elected leaders who will work hard to make sure that job gets done. Today, we continue to work to meet those expectations. Mr. President, I know you're back there, you listen to me. Mr. President, if Air Force One crew ever gets confused about which Wilmington to fly to, tell them to head south. You'll have one of the best weekends you've ever had. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Paris Pugh, second grade teacher at Bradley Creek Elementary School.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paris Pugh, and I owe all my gratitude to God, my mom, and my dad for guiding me. I was raised in Clayton, North Carolina, where my mother, a school social worker for over 30 years, instilled in me a passion for education. She is not only my greatest inspiration, but also my dearest friend. I graduated from UNC Wilmington in 2022 and followed my passion. I've cherished teaching second grade at Bradley Creek Elementary School right here in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's not just a school. It's a community where we cherish each other and celebrate our differences. I am blessed to work alongside a dedicated team of educators led by an exceptional principal. And I am so proud to be a Black educator who's nurturing the minds of the incredible young individuals in my classroom. Showing them that they too can stand in front of a classroom one day. But our kids can't prioritize their education when they're concerned about having a safe and healthy place to learn. Recently, we discovered that one of our school's water fountains was contaminated with lead. We swiftly resolved the issue, but no teacher or student should have to worry about their most basic needs, like access to clean water. Thanks to President Biden and Vice President Harris, students and teachers don't have to worry. Funding from their American Rescue Plan helped to replace our water fountain and so much more. They've made replacing lead pipes here in North Carolina and across the country one of their highest priorities. They know that everyone deserves clean and safe drinking water. They are fighting for us. That is why it is my privilege to introduce a leader whose compassion inspires us all, President Joe Biden.
Please have a seat, take a seat if you have one. Thank you, Paris, for that introduction. And by the way, if my father were here, he'd said, I apologize for my back. I apologize. But thank you very much. Look, folks, thank you. Being a teacher isn't what you do, it's who you are, and it matters. Before I get started, I just came from Charlotte. I spent some time with some of the families of the 8 police officers who were shot in the line of duty on Monday. 4 of them were killed. Joshua Iyer, Elliot, Sam, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Poliski, and Thomas Weeks. We pray for their loved ones and those left behind. I met their children, their husbands, their wives, and their mothers and fathers. We pray for the recovery of the brave wounded as well. Every time an officer puts on that shield and walks out the door, the family member wonders whether they're going to get that call until they come home. I'm serious. The entire nation is grieving for these families. While crime rates are down nationally, we've invested a record amount in public safety, violence interruption. We've also done much work to make communities safer, but to protect our officers, we have to get them the resources they need to be able to do their job and to keep the weapons of war out of the hands of people who without. To the men and women of law enforcement, you represent the best of us, and I want to thank you. God bless you all. May He keep you safe. Governor Cooper, thank you for having us today. And I've been saying this for well over 2 years. You got one of the best governors in the United States of America. Right? And I mean it sincerely. When I think of the Gov, one word comes to mind. I mean it sincerely. Integrity. His absolute integrity. And Mayor Sappho, thanks for the passport to your city. And by the way, you ain't the only Wilmington in America. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. And guess what? The mayor lived in Wilmington, Delaware. Delaware as well as here. He lived in Wilmington, Delaware. His daughter graduated from my alma mater, University of Delaware. And we lived, where he lived is only about 1.5 miles from where I live. And thanks to a favorite son of North Carolina who's doing a great job as an administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Michael Regan. Folks, I'm here to talk about something very basic and fundamental to our communities, to our economy, to our basic human dignity. Safe, clean drinking water. For generations, water was delivered through lead service pipe lines, connecting the main water line in the street to the homes and schools and businesses in this city and around the country. These lead lines are tough, durable, but they don't rust. But we've long since learned they leach poisonous toxins into our water. The science is clear. Lead service lines pose severe health risk, damaging brain and kidneys. In children especially, they stunt growth, slow learning, and cause lasting brain damage. But we know we can stop it. We know how to do it. One study shows when you reduce lead exposure for children, their test scores actually improve in school as much as they would if they reduced the class size by 1/3 at 1/10 the cost of doing that. It pays off across the board. But today, 9 million lead service lines connect water mains to our homes, schools, daycare centers, businesses. That includes some 300,000 lead service lines here in North Carolina alone. 300,000. The cost to replace them is consequential, but too many families only learn the threat to their children after they get sick. You know, this is for some time why I'm been determined to fix it, and we're finally moving. Until the United States of America, God love us, deals with this, how can we say we're a leading nation in the world? For God's sake, we're better than this. Let me say what I've said many times before. There's no safe level of lead exposure, none. The only way forward is to replace every lead service line that connects Americans to clean water. That's why Kamala and I are making sure the administration is the first ever to set out to do it, and we're going to get it done. As a consequence of the first major law I signed, that not many of the other teams signed up to support, the American Rescue Plan back in March of 2021, we provided North Carolina with historic investments in clean water money. Governor Cooper dedicated $2 billion from the American Rescue Plan for 800 clean water projects all across this state. It not only includes removing lead service lines, but uses modern technology to sanitize storm and wastewater systems, in addition to connecting thousands of homes to clean tap water for the first time. These clean water projects include testing every water fountain in every school across the state and removing lead hazards, as Paris mentioned. Now look, our landmark bipartisan infrastructure law is allowing states across the nation to do more by investing in a record $15 billion so far. nationwide in lead pipe removal. Today, we're releasing the third installment of that funding, an additional $3 billion nationwide, which will bring the total to $250 million for North Carolina so far, including here in Wilmington. It's going to replace 300 lead pipe service lines connecting homes, schools, and business here in Wilmington. Governor, I hear you're breaking ground sometime today. Congratulations, pal. Congratulations. Folks, this is about safety, but it's also about basic fairness. Nationally, we're directing nearly half of the funding to disadvantaged communities, half of it, that have borne the brunt of lead pipe poisoning for so long. Studies show communities of color have been the hardest hit. We have to make things right, and we're going to make them right now. And when we do, we'll mean clean water, healthier communities, peace of mind, and jobs befitting those communities. Jobs of plumbers, pipe fitters, laborers, engineers, good paying jobs you can make a serious living with without a college degree to raise a family on. And folks, protecting people from lead pipe contamination is just one of our nation's most ambitious water agendas ever. We're upgrading old water mains, treatment plants. Some of them are as old as 100 years old here in America, 100 years old. And finally, we're improving water systems on tribal lands, where nearly half of the population still lack clean water. And we're detecting and removing so-called forever chemicals, referred to as PFAS, P-FAS-. They're discharged from companies and military bases into our water supply. They're very dangerous chemicals that shouldn't be near our water supply. Earlier this month, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Reagan and Governor Cooper here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, as my administration issued its first ever national PFAS standard to get those dangerous chemicals out of our drinking water. But that's not all. Communities across the Cape Fear watershed know too well why this matters. As a consequence of PFAS, you've seen aggressive cancers emerge in that area. It's gone so far that we're advising and warning you can't eat the fish from the same water that you drink. That's how far it's gone. My administration is investing an additional $9 billion more than ever in the history of America to finally get rid of PFAS chemicals now. And to get safe, clean drinking water to you and 100 million Americans across the country presently exposed to PFAS. And all, my infrastructure law makes the most significant investment in America's infrastructure in generations. It includes roads, bridges, ports, airports, public transit, and so much more. It includes a new passenger train from Raleigh to Richmond, which, by the way, reduces pollution by and takes thousands of vehicles off the road. And provide over 1,000 good-paying jobs. Good-paying jobs. Nationwide, 51,000 projects and 4,500 communities have been announced so far. To date, this has dedicated over $9 billion to North Carolina alone. $9 billion. In January, I was in Raleigh to announce the most significant ever investment in affordable high-speed internet for every single person in North Carolina. Because high-speed internet is today as important as electrification was a century ago. It's a means of communication, being able to compete. It's not enough to just have internet access. It needs to be affordable. That's why my administration is saving families around $30 a month in internet bills. Over 900,000 households in North Carolina have saved a conglomerate of $550 million on their internet bill. But that program called Affordable Connectivity Program runs out of money this month. For folks, for months now, I've asked the Congress to extend the funding, but my Republican friends in Congress have failed to act. Now I'm calling them to act now, so 1 in 5 North Carolina families don't see their internet bills go up next month. You know, this progress is part of my vision for an economy that grows from the middle out and the bottom up, not just the top down. I'm sick and tired of trickle-down economics. We weren't poor, but I come from a middle-class household. 3-bedroom home, split-level home. The grandpa lived with us, 4 kids, and my dad and mom. My dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. And it's about being able to have a little bit left over at the end of the month when everything's paid. And guess what? The plan we put in place is beginning to work. We've created a record 15 million jobs since I came to office. There was any president has 15 million. Including 460,000 right here in North Carolina. Unemployment is down in North Carolina from 5.6% to 3.5%. Lower than any year under the previous administration, and the lowest in 25 years. Wages are rising nationwide, up 3% in North Carolina. I realize there's more to deal with. There's more we have to do. There's a lot of, the corporations are adding on costs that aren't justified. By the way, Walmart just announced that they opened a new store, and they just announced that they're going to charge for all the products they have the same exact price it was charged before the pandemic. Before the pandemic. And we're eliminating thousands of junk fees. It used to be, right now, you bounce a check in your bank, you're likely to be charged between $35 and $50 for that bank overcharge. Guess what? They can't now charge more than $8. Same with credit card fees. Look, and manufacturing is booming. Nearly 800,000 new manufacturing jobs and counting. Where in God's name is it written we can't be the leading manufacturer in the world here? Where is that written? It's not. And cities like Wilmington are coming back. We're doing all this at the same time we're cutting the federal deficit. We cut the federal deficit by failing to make the very wealthy and big corporations begin to pay their fair share. And by the way, I've been fighting for years as a senator. I know I look like I'm only 40, but I'm a little bit older. Taking on Big Pharma. You know, if any of you have a prescription that has to be filled, I can put you in Air Force One. You pick any city in Europe or in parts of the Middle East or in Asia. Take you that same prescription, get it filled in those countries, in Berlin or in Toronto, Canada, or in Rome, Italy. You'll pay 40 to 60% less than you pay here. How many of you know somebody who has the need for insulin because they have diabetes? Well, guess what? It now costs not $400 a month, $35 a month. And by the way, they're still making 350% profit. It only costs them $10 to make it. And by the way, when I first got this passed, it included everybody, not just the elderly. And guess what? This next term, I'm going to make sure everybody qualifies for this. And by the way, what we passed already is saving the government, the taxpayers, $160 billion over 10 years. Because guess what? Not only it helps the consumer, it means the federal government doesn't have to pay all that money to the drug companies. That's right. No, I'm serious. Right. This is what they call, where I come from, a big deal. Look, my predecessors and my MAGA Republican allies, his allies, have a very different view. Every single Republican voted against the American Rescue Plan. Every one. That's providing hundreds of millions of dollars to deliver drinking water to all of North Carolina's schools. The vast majority of them voted against the infrastructure law as well. In fact, your Senator, Ted Budd, called the infrastructure law, he called it, the law, fatally flawed. Then he went on to say, and I'm quoting, a liberal Trojan horse for a socialist agenda, end of quote. I don't know about you, but I don't think ensuring kids can drink clean water to avoid brain damage is a socialist agenda. I think it's just plain decency, plain fairness. But as you might guess, the senator hadn't been shy. He's asked on 10 separate occasions for new funding in those very laws he voted against. 10 separate funding. As they say, God bless the boy. Remember that the Trojan horse, socialist agenda. Well, I don't know about senators. I didn't think the senator was a socialist. He keeps asking. But look, that's okay. I promise to be, all kidding aside, president for all Americans, whether you voted for me or not, because we owe it to the American people. So, Senator, I'll see you at the groundbreaking. You may recall that my predecessor promised Infrastructure Week every single week for 4 years. He didn't build a damn thing. Nothing. No, I'm serious. His administration rolled back wetland protections, making it easier to pollute our water supply. They gave mining companies wide leeway to contaminate our groundwater. They slashed the Environmental Protection Agency budget, eliminating important programs that guaranteed clean water. At the same time, he and his mega allies in Congress were happy to give the very super rich a $2 trillion tax cut in his administration. $2 trillion. That benefited the super wealthy and the biggest corporations while exploding the federal debt. You may remember that when I was trying to get these bills passed that we talked about, including the veterans bills and the rest, they said we couldn't afford it. And I looked out there, and there were 50 corporations of the Fortune 500 who made $40 billion and didn't pay a single penny in tax. No, I'm not making this up. As they said, look it up. But here's the deal. Didn't pay a single, but I just was able to raise the tax to 15%. That's less than all of you pay. And guess what? Not only did it get everything passed, we were able to reduce the federal deficit. My predecessor, the guy running this time, racked up more federal debt than every previous president in history. More federal debt during his administration. He talks about saving money. Well, that's not how I see things. I believe doing what's always worked best for this country. Investing in all of America and investing in all Americans. Look, let me close with this. When folks see shovels in the ground on all these projects, when they see new pipes being laid and people going to work, I hope they feel the pride that I feel. Pride in their hometowns making a comeback. Pride in America. Pride knowing we can get big things done in America when we set our mind to it. Big things. There's nothing beyond our capacity. Think about this. We're the only country in the world that's come out of every crisis we've entered stronger than we went in. Every single time. And folks, I've never been more optimistic about our nation's future. We just remember who we are. We're the United States of America. I mean it. The bottom of our, and there's nothing beyond our capacity when we work together. So let's get out and work together and get this done. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you all.